Never go to Alaska without a lightweight backpack because by midday I've got half my clothes in the backpack. So that helps. And it comes from my first mistake. The first time I visited Mendenhall Glacier, I found myself at Mendenhall at 80 degrees with a cable knit turtleneck sweater and corduroy pants on and no options. So don't make that mistake. So as I say, the temperatures can range. The other thing about Alaska weather is there's no predicting when you're going to get what. Example, last time I was up there when I caught the fish, it was July. So I know Alaska, and you would think that I would accept what I know about it. But we all are sort of have a hard drive that says, well, it's July, that's going to be summer weather. Of course, it's the middle of the summer, right? Wrong. I was there for 2 weeks. The 2 weeks that I was there, most days it was in the 50s and drizzly, and we hit a few days when the sun came out and it was in the 80s. So you don't know. So no matter whether you're going to go in May, and you might get an 80 or a 50-degree day in May or September, you might get 30 in the morning, and you might have 75 in the afternoon. You don't know. So whenever you go, be prepared for all of it. And the answer is layers. Lightweight layers. I always start on the bottom layer with silk because it's lightweight and it's warm, but it's not hot. Wool socks mean everything because if your feet are cold, you're cold. A cap means the rest of the story because 40% of your heat's going out of your head. So, you know, being smart about what you pack and layering is really helps you enjoy your visit to Alaska, to be prepared for whatever comes your way. So this is King Salmon Restaurant, one of the restaurants on the Denali campus. I show the picture for two reasons. One is I'm a gardener, and this makes me very jealous because these flowers are simple annuals like petunias, right? But the reason they're so incredible is because of Alaska's weather. So here in Pennsylvania, we have great humidity that stresses our flowers and so on, but in Alaska, they don't really suffer that humidity. At night, it gets cool, so the flowers love it. It often drizzles a little bit every day, and they have this thing called the midnight sun. So they're getting enormous amounts of light, not stressed out by humidity, and the result is incredible things. And so the people in Alaska know this, and they plant annuals in anything that'll hold dirt. So when you're visiting these different areas, everywhere you go, there's pots of flowers everywhere. It's really magnificent. It matches up nicely with the weather. So that is the story of the midnight sun. By the way, the longest day for the most amount of sun in Alaska is summer solstice, which is, it changes year to year a bit, but it's roughly June 19th. So as you approach June 19th, every day gets a few seconds longer, and as you move away from June 19th, a few seconds shorter. To us, doesn't matter when we go up there, May, September, August, it's all much more light than we get here. So we'll feel the difference of the midnight sun. Oh, and the reason for showing this is not only the flowers. You see, I get all wrapped up. I can't wait for spring. So the other part of this is the restaurant itself. So how many people have cruised any ship anywhere? Most of us, okay. So we know the industry standard is you buy a cruise and meals are included on the ship. It's easy. Today, there's optional restaurants on lots of ships. We have them as well. If you want to delve into an optional experience, you can. You don't have to. Meals are included in the main dining room, etc. But what happens when you're on land in this tour part? So we queried that, studied that question. We decided we would offer it both ways. So in that brochure, you're going to find some tours titled Connoisseur. Those are all on one page. They all include meals. We do that by providing vouchers. And if you want to see exactly which meals are included, when you get down to knowing which itinerary you're interested in knowing more about, you can turn to that page and it'll read the BDL, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So if you see the little logo, you'll see, oh, I see lunch is included here, dinner here, and so on. Most meals are included with the Connoisseur program. The Connoisseur also includes an escort on the land portion in Alaska. So when you get to Fairbanks or Anchorage, wherever it is you start your journey, that evening, your tour guide will meet you and say, hi, I'm Judy. I'm going to be with you for the next days that you're in Alaska. We're going to travel together from place to place. These groups are usually one motor coach, so whatever that may be, 40, 43, 45, whatever the coach holds. And of course, we all know what the escort does. They solve problems if they come along. But in Alaska, this person really serves so much more. They really make the experience come alive. I've watched these escorts answer the questions of people like, well, you know, I really want to get into a dog sled experience. Which one should I do? And they know, they you know, they give you all this information. For myself, my own personal escort experience was lovely. Was on the train and I expressed that I wanted to go fishing when I got to Denali, and I was excited to do that sort of thing. We disembarked the train. The escort calls me from across the street. He says, Judy, be in the lobby tomorrow morning at 7:30. You're going fishing. Yes, I paid for it, but he took care of everything. You know, so it's that person, that go-to person that can, you know, how do you say, enhance the experience. And I'm also a person, when I'm on vacation, I don't really want to look at papers or anything. Just tell me where to be when I need to be there, and you be in charge, and I'm going to have fun. So if that's your mindset, you'll like this as well. So it includes an escort. And it also includes the longer park tour into Denali, and we're going to talk about that Denali experience, because in my view, your experience in Denali is a highlight of your trip to Alaska. Understanding what it is and that you have choices is real important to me. So we will go through that. But know that this program, the Connoisseur, already includes there are 2 tours that I'll talk about, and it includes the longer one. Conversely, everything else in the book, I mentioned all these connoisseurs are on one page, so every other tour in the book is what we call hosted. Here, meals aren't included, so you go into the King Salmon, order whatever you want from the menu. Instead of paying with a voucher, you pay with a credit card, cash, whatever you like to do. It's not escorted on land. Instead, they have hosts that remain at the lodge. So you arrive at the lodge and, hi, I'm Judy, I'm your host here at whatever lodge you're at. Here's what goes on here, here's your paperwork. You know, when you leave, adios, you'll move on to my colleague at the next lodge. So the hosts remain stationary while you move through the system in the hosted program. And it features the shorter park tour, but here is the key to know. The travel agents here at Travel House know that if you buy a hosted tour, but you'd really rather have the longer Denali Park tour, they can talk to Princess and say, hey, is it available and can we book it in there? Because you want to take care of that now, not when you get there. You won't find availability, but the agents here will manage that for you. So you have a choice. And I will say this, having done it for 35 years, 99% of the people that I talk to that are heading up to Alaska say to me, I'm coming all the way from Pennsylvania. Of course I want to see as much of this park as I can. And so most people want to opt for the longer park tour. It's your choice though. You do have a choice. So this is Denali, centerpiece of Denali National Park. And this is the footprint of it. It's over 6 million acres of untouched wilderness, and notice there's only one road into that park, and that road has a story. But before I go there, let me orient you to, this is where the Denali Lodge is located, and down here is where McKinley Lodge is. So notice, once you get to the McKinley Lodge, you're not going back into Denali because there's no road in there. So the road. This was one of the last parks that was opened up to the public in our park system. And so when the Park Service in Washington announced that they were going to prepare to do that, the gentleman who was currently the park superintendent there at Denali was a longtime park employee. He knew exactly what the Park Service had in mind. And he had been at Denali for some time, so he knew this park really well. And he knew those 2 ideas did not match. So he sat down and wrote a memo. In those days, you wrote memos. Oh, don't you wish you didn't have email? But anyway, writes a memo, sends it off to Washington and says, look, what we have here at Denali is different than what we have in the lower 48. And what we have is untouched wilderness and animals in their own natural habitat. So it would behoove us to learn and to fashion this, to bring people into the park without disturbing this habitat as minimally as possible, so that we are able to present these animals in their own environment and bring people in to see that. And this is our treasure here at Denali. So he sent it off to Washington. But he was talking to Washington, so they sent the pavers up. So they began to pave the road. So here is what this road looks like today. Whoops, we'll go there. It is a 92-mile long road, and the red part at the front is the first 17 miles, and it is paved, because at mile 17, they saw the light. So if you were driving a car up there, you would not be allowed to go past mile 17. And so to get anywhere beyond that, you're on a park bus. What we call the natural history tour goes to mile 25, which is about right there. That's what the agents and I call that the short tour. Then the longer one goes in between these two X's, and you'll notice there's a pass in there. That pass dictates where you're going, because the Park Service will determine if the pass is passable on the day that you're going to go. And so this is what we call the Tundra Wilderness Tour. It takes you to about mile 50 or 60. I'm going to back up and show you those numbers. That tour that's X there, I have to update my slide, it's no longer offered. But FYI, to be accurate, there is a tour that goes all the way out to Kantishna as well. It's kind of what I call for the crazy people. I've done it, of course. But it's at least 14 hours. You go in as early as 7:30, and we came out at 8:30. So, and I'm talking AM and PM. So it takes you the whole way. People say to me, well, what do you see if you take the longer tour? And I say, more. Yeah, it's more opportunity to see wildlife. You know, you see further terrain in the park. It's all about what your level of interest is in this park and animals, and so you go from there. I will say the Kantishna tour is rare. It's only one bus a day that the park runs. That means there's only about 40 spaces, so it's very, very limited. But if you really want to do this, my recommendation is to share that with your agent. She or he will call Princess and say, hey, can you get a hold of Kantishna? If they can, they will. If they can't, actually, I went around Princess and went straight to the park and got it. So if there's a will, there's a way. But the two that we offer are the short tour and the long tour, which is Natural History Tour and Tundra Wilderness Tour. And so there they are. The Natural History Tour runs about 5 hours to mile 27. The Tundra Wilderness, 8 or 9 hours to mile 53 or 62. The park decides. And we literally pick you up. The park bus picks you up at Princess Lodge across the street, takes you across the street into the park, and you just keep going. You saw it, it's one road. The bus stops approximately every 45 minutes for a rest stop. It is an entirely undeveloped park. It looks like this. So that's what the road looks like. It gives that sense of the wilderness coming right up to the edge of the road, because it does. So that is the development in Denali, minimal as it should be. So that, and this is the park buses that take you out. And this is what you're likely to see, what we call the big four. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Dull sheep, caribou, bear, and moose. And now today you may even see wolves. It really depends. Which brings me to seasonality in Denali and in Alaska in general. So the peak season in Alaska runs from the middle of June to the middle of August. When I say it's the peak season in Alaska, I'm speaking of pricing. And if you can ask any travel agent, why is that the peak season? And they'll tell you that's when people travel. This is like, it's more school oriented than anything else. So when you think about it, that's so. In other words, if you're going to look at a tour at the end of June, the same tour at the beginning of August or in the middle of July is likely to be the same price, because this is your peak period. As you go away from those dates, back or forward, each date that you go further away from that center, the price drops. So in what we call the shoulder seasons, you'll find the prices change because it's the shoulder season. So that's the price aspect. The animal movement aspect is in the fall season, like from about the middle of August, I'd say, maybe a little bit later, the later part of August, and that last tail end of the season, by that time the animals are getting the message loud and clear that Alaska is, or that winter is coming to Alaska. In fact, the natives have a saying that says, when the fireweed goes to cotton, the summer is soon forgotten. The fireweed are those purple flowers, spike flowers, and when they start going to seed, it looks like cotton. When that's happening, the animals sense and know that it is coming. So you get this sense of like a slow roar that Alaska, or that winter is coming. And the animals, therefore, are foraging more ferociously because they're going to go down for hibernation for the winter. So you can see a spike of animal activity in that latter part of the season for that reason. And then the flip side, in the spring, well, everything's fresh and new. They're just getting up from hibernation. So once again, they've been not eating all winter, so they're hungry. So you get a little bit more spike of activity. You see animals throughout the season. One of the best things you can do to ensure that you'll see animals is take binoculars with you. They're in their own habitat. So a Dall sheep is likely to be far away hanging off a cliff, and your binoculars will bring it right close to you. So that's really the key. So that's the seasonality and the way the animals move in the park. This is the McKinley Lodge, the sister, if you will. You saw it on the map on the other side of the park. Beautiful property. And this is the reason why we put that lodge there. It's 40 miles from the base of Mount McKinley, and the views of the mountain from this property are awesome. You can see the mountain is reflected in the windows behind the folks, and they are enjoying it. And in fact, that's what most folks do at McKinley Lodge, is enjoy the views. Now, I don't know about you, but that wouldn't take me very long. And then I'd be like, well, what do we do now? So know that every one of these properties has the ability to do an optional tour. So you know cruises, you know you can get off in the port, you do a shore excursion, right? This is similar to a shore excursion, but it's on land at these properties. And in fact, if you want to know, well, what can I do at Denali? I'm going to go fishing, but if that's not what you want to do, you need to be looking and seeing what is there, what are these optional tours, because this is the stuff that you're going to really remember, and that, you know, the adventures that you create that are designed to meet what you want to do, that are really going to ramp up your experience in Alaska. So to access information about these optional tours from the lodges or from the ship, you go to the same place. And there's two ways to get there. One is, once you're booked, and I know a few folks in the room are, you're going to go to the Princess website and click on that you're already booked, and then it'll ask you for your booking information, your number, and you're going to give us information like your passport and your birthday, your emergency contact, your credit card. So we call this the cruise personalizer. When you're in there doing that, you're also going to be, it'll say, would you like to look at shore excursions? Then you click on that and it'll take you to what you can purchase with your shore excursions. Now, if you're booked for 2020 and you do what I just said, it won't offer it yet, because 2020's shore excursions aren't being offered yet. They will be offered. Somebody asked me this last night, and honestly, I don't remember. Lisa, do you remember when we open up those shore excursions? I say at least 45 days prior to the opening of the season, maybe a little earlier. You have to watch it. I know you can't buy 2020 yet, but you can look at 2019 by starting in the same beginning, which is the Princess website. And I think I might have, yes, I did. So if you take your cursor and roll it along here to destinations, a drop box opens. At the bottom it says ports of call. Now we know Denali is not a port of call, but the computer wants to show you optional tours. So when you hit ports of call, you're going to get two drop boxes, actually, right, like that. So here you would select Alaska when you hit that arrow, and here you'll select Denali, Juneau, Kenai, Ketchikan, whatever it is you want to look at. And then click View Details. It'll open up with complete information about what you could do at Denali optionally, or Kenai as an option, or